friends. It's Romania Black, and I am ready for some cherry magic. Episode 3. Usually, in an anime series, the third episode is when things get down to business and you decide whether you want to keep watching the show or not. By episode 1, that had happened for me. I was like, oh, we're here, we're staying. So, although it is kind of crazy to think that we will be a fourth of the way through the series after this episode, which is wild to me. Wild. So, with that being said, I am excited to get in and see exactly what we're going to be dealing with in this episode. But before we do that, we have a couple of comments that we need to address, specifically with episode 2 from last week. Now, Shimoyama, as well as Anime Annie, wanted to talk about kind of the signage that is in Japan. In a couple of years from now, I want to save up my money. I would love to go to Japan. That's like always been on my bucket list. It's like Japan and Rome have always been on my bucket list. I want to see the Sistine Chapel. I want to see the Colosseum, but I definitely want to go to Japan. And so that's definitely on the bucket list. But with that being said, Shimoyama 9607 says, in public transportation in Japan, because they are from Japan, we have English, Chinese, and Korean signs as well. I was like, great. And then Anime Annie, who has been to Japan like twice, I think, at least, has said there are a couple of good apps for translating signs and things from Hiragana kanji into English. Google Translate is honestly not too bad, but you definitely need to take a picture in order to translate it, as the live translation tool is not the greatest, especially when it comes to a katakana. For visiting Japan, though, it would really only just be outside of Tokyo where you might need it for the signs, as pretty much everywhere I went in Tokyo had the signs in English as well. That's good to know. I always feel kind of bad because I'm American and we have kind of a stance on the English language, as you probably know. And we do have a lot of things translated into Spanish, but it does make me feel very much like behind the world because there are lots of multilingual people in the world. And I do always feel behind, that I'm like, I know English and a minute residue of Spanish still remains on my brain. But with that being said, that's good to know, because the one thing I do fear is going to another country and not being able to understand anything and being like, oh, so it's good to know that will be not as much of a problem, hopefully, as I originally thought it would be. Shimoyama and Anime Annie had said that. And then Sunspots says for episode 2, I think on the channel, maybe the main series that you've watched that's the most recent BL was Sasaki and Miyano, which was 3 years ago. Why? Why has it been so long? Why did it take me so long to get back to a BL series? I know I've had Danmai in between, which is basically Chinese BL, but still, right? But still. And then Nicholas said for episode 2, going back to the beginning, yeah, I think Suge's advice was not too, I don't think Suge's advice was too sound. I took it as something that he would do in Adachi's place and wasn't exactly taking into account both of their history and dynamic. I agree. I think a lot of his advice speaks for what Suge would do and not exactly our dear boy Adachi, so take that with what you will. But I am excited to see more of his character later on in this series. Maybe, unless he's going to try to be a wedge in all this, and then I'm going to be like, no, Suge! But anyway, the last 2 points is the whole power of the 30-year-old virgin. You might not come across many who fit that description. So yeah, I wonder if Adachi's friend was given a power as well, and we just don't know yet. Or is this something that's just Adachi acquiring because of his family? Yeah, we don't know. Is something in Adachi's family DNA allowing him to be the only one with this power? Or is Suge and possibly Kurasawa also having powers? I don't know. The last thing Nicholas wanted to bring up was the implication that Kurasawa might also be able to read minds. Maybe that moment where he held his hand and answered Adachi was meant to throw us off. I can't really tell. Yeah, going back during the discussion, I couldn't tell either if it was just like a slip of the moment and it was meant to look like he was reading minds, but he wasn't. If it was just coincidence. So I don't know either. I'm really excited for us to find out, though, as we go throughout this episode. That's going to be really cool. But yeah, those are my comments. I'm super excited to get in this episode. Thank you all so much for your comments, your kind words. I am so glad everybody's been so supportive, and they're really I'm looking forward to seeing how you all enjoy the reactions, the discussion, because this series is giving so much to discuss. Now, I have had a cough drop my mouth because I had like a really stressful day yesterday. It's one of those days where like all the stress kind of manifests and all comes down at once, and it just hits you like a truck. And so I woke up this morning and my throat was really kind of sore, and I was like, oh no, we're not doing that. But it feels a lot better now. So I think it was just the stress making me feel sickly after the last couple days, but I feel great now. So that's what's important. So anyway, we're going to get this ready. We're going to get this all set up, and I'm so excited. The good thing is these episodes don't have titles, so you don't know what to expect at all. And I'm kind of here for it. So we're going to start episode 3 of Cherry Magic, and we're going to do so here in 3, 2, 1, and let's do it to it. Could they be any more adorable? Oh my God. So I looked up for a hot second. I thought Rokaku was Reagan's voice actor, but I was immediately proven wrong. No, Rokaku's voice actor, he has done a lot of BL, so he knows how this song and dance goes. He's been in a lot of BL series that I noticed on there, and on his IMDb page. He's also been on Idolish 7, which is a series I've been requested very many times, and it's a long series, so I've been hesitant to put it on the polls, but I would like to get to it eventually, because I think it would be up my alley. I mean, I think it might be. But anyway, so I really liked this episode a lot. Each episode has just developed their relationship further and further, and it just gets them to know each other further and further. And this episode, us getting all of the insight into Kurasawa's perspective was everything. But we'll get to that. So yeah, I like this one old man. We got old man Yaoi starting between the one chairman that got on to Adachi and then the old man that told Adachi to shut up. I mean, they share some common ground. They've got a nice little old man Yaoi started over here, a work romance. I feel bad because I feel like Adachi like he put himself in the corner. He put baby in the corner. Because I get it to an extent. I'm not a singer. I cannot carry a tune very well at all. I am definitely the ensemble with my alto voice, and I have lots of friends that love karaoke, and I like karaoke to go watch them sing. But when I'm asked to sing, it's a lot of pressure, and I'm like, and I don't want people to like laugh or think less of me. And I was like, oh no. So I always like feel very hesitant to sing at karaoke. I'm like, I'll watch you sing. Or if there's like a group number, I'm like, I'll be in the group number. But poor Adachi, I feel for his exhaustion, right? Because he's not really much of a social butterfly. And then he looks over. I wonder too if part of his exhaustion is the fact that he's sitting by himself and not with Kurasawa. Because if you notice, when he's with Kurasawa, he's like a much more happier person, because he likes him. And in this case, he's by himself, and by yourself at karaoke does sound like a miserable experience, especially when you look across the room and there's the guy you like, even though you're in denial of that fact, with these women, these two trollops that won't leave him alone. They've been the same two thoughts that have been after him since the start of this series. And like, girls, I hate to tell you, but read the room. The audacity. If you are hitting on a guy that hard and he is not responding, you might need to reconsider, because chances are if he's not responding to your advances, there's probably a good reason for it. And you may not like what that good reason is. So then Rokaku comes along. Rokaku, our guy that looks like Armin from Attack on Titan, to go with Erwin and Levi. The recent graduate. Yes, the impetuous young grad. Now, we've established that Adachi and Kurasawa are both in their 30s. Kurasawa did say he's 30 now, so does he have... We're going to talk about that ability thing, because now I'm like, oh, I don't know if he can read his thoughts or not. I don't think so, though. I don't think so, because of what was said this episode. I think that we got confirmation this episode that I don't think he can read Adachi's thoughts because of what went on, and we'll walk through it together. But Rokaku is such an interesting character because I know a guy that's just like him. I went to college with a guy that's just like him, who is 100% heterosexual, but is 100% flirty and 100% friendly. And it was very confusing getting to know him at first, because when you talk to him, he's very touchy-feely. He's very in your personal space. He's super outgoing, super extroverted, and he's very flirty. And that's just his personality. So when I first met him, I was like, is he hitting on me? But then as I watched him interact with every other person under the sun, I'm like, oh no, that's just his personality. Cool. And Rokaku kind of reminds me of him, where it's like he's just super in your face. And if you're like Kurasawa, it can come across as I'm flirting with your man. But Rokaku, I think, has no homosexual interest whatsoever in Adachi. He is just a really handsy guy, right? And it's good to have friends like that. But he's like, oh, hey, there you are, Adachi-san. You're so invisible. I didn't notice you. He's like, I'm not good with playboys like him. Which is funny because, you know, Kurosawa is not a playboy. Kurosawa is very stoic, like almost gives off demisexual vibes, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, so he gets next to him. He's like, let's have some fun. I was curious. He's like, I feel sick. Maybe I had too much to drink. I need to keep the energy high though. Oh, so that was his thoughts. Okay, because he bumped into Adachi, and that's when he read it, and that's when he handed him the medicine, like, oh, you look like you might have drank too much. Here you go. That's what it is, which is funny. It all came back around to that because it's like drinking for the social status of it. I definitely understand that because I kind of, for the most part, stopped drinking. I very occasionally have like some creamer in my coffee that has some like Bailey's or something. But for the most part, I've kind of quit drinking. And when you go out in social gatherings, it is kind of hard to not drink and consume alcohol, especially because it's such a social convention. So I recently went to a event with two friends and they both were having a drink, and I had like a mocktail, and it tasted great. The mocktail was wonderful, but it was just like, there's almost that expectation to either drink or have that in there. That's kind of hard. And then if you don't drink and you're not the designated driver, you come across as being awkward. And it's like, that shouldn't be how it is, but it does feel that way in a lot of social circles. So Rokaku, being the young graduate that he is, feels like he needs to uphold the energy. And then I like these, like, no, here's this, you know, hangover medicine. It's Adachi. You've had too much to drink. You don't have to force yourself to keep the energy up. And he's like, well, why do you have this? And he's like, because I don't drink much either. And he's like, I keep some handy. He's like, oh, thanks, man. He's like, you're really considerate, Ando-san. He gets his name wrong the entire episode, and it's kind of funny. And he's like, you're supposed to take it with water. You're so nice. And of course Kurasawa gets jealous. But I mean, he looks over, and there's Adachi wiping his mouth. Adachi doesn't realize what he's doing. And it's like, oh my God. It's just really funny. I mean, I think the mouth wiping was a little bit too far. I love that he calls him Ano-san, which is a nice reference to Neon Genesis. So that was a great time. But yeah, and then Kurosawa shows up with his big dick energy, and he's like, I'll be having this seat. Thank you, sir. I'm going to squeeze in between you since you've now been demoted into the third wheel position. And he's like, hey, the girls at the next table are interested in you. He's like, oh my God, really? Bye. Firmly establishing that Rokaku is not interested in men. Glad we got that out of the way. Glad we've ruled out Rokaku as a problem. Rokaku is going to be our third wheel. That is going to be like our platonic bestie that helps be the wingman and all of this without realizing he's the wingman. And I'm here for that. I'm great. Magenta glasses guy must have gotten sick because he's not at this event. Where is he at? Now, then we have Kurasawa sitting down. I don't know why they focused on his crotch in that scene, but it felt deliberate. He's like, don't mind me. I'll just sit beside you. And Adachi's like, wait a second. You just led him astray. Now, Adachi says, knowing Kurosawa, he was probably being genuinely kind. He was jealous and sending him away. Adachi, you are very wrong in this position at this moment. He's like, which is it? He's like, oh, I know if I touch him. I don't know why he didn't just bump his shoulders. Because later their knees were bumping and he could hear everything. So I don't know why he didn't bump shoulders. Why he tried to do the weird handsy moment. But maybe he was just being awkward and nervous, right? And he's like, oh, by the way, today... He's like, frustrated. The words that came to mind were, what a handsome face. I mean, Adachi likes Kurosawa. He just doesn't want to admit it, right? So then Rokaku sings his song, and he sounds really great. Rokaku has a good singing voice, which is great. And then he's like, well, why is he not going to sing? He's like, he can do everything, so surely he's probably flawless in karaoke. And I like that Adachi gets kind of excited for a moment, being like, wait a minute, what if he's tone deaf? What if he's not perfect? I like this episode. I'm glad that it dispelled the Kurosawa perfection, because we're only 3 episodes in, but I think it's important for the relationship to move forward that Adachi realizes that Kurosawa is not perfect. No one is perfect. Everyone has parts where they feel, concerned or disingenuous, or they feel down on themselves. And Adachi, thinks that it's going to be him being tone deaf. There is a playful side to Adachi. Adachi can be a tsundere. There's a playful cat side to him where he's like, he has a flaw. I want to exploit it. I want to see more of Adachi's little flirty, kind of playful side come out, because Kurosawa would be like, he's the big golden retriever wagging his tail, like, yes, let's play with that. It's true. It'd be hilarious if someone so handsome was tone deaf. He's like, thanks. So then he's like, oh, Rokaku is good, and he cheers, and that's all Kurosawa needs to start singing. And of course, he sings this beautiful love ballad like a damn peacock, doing his mating dance for Adachi, and Adachi doesn't even realize it. Yeah, where was Purple Glasses guy? The fuzzy-haired guy was there. He missed out. He would have been front and center taking photos. And poor Adachi's like, well, shit, he's perfect. He can sing really good. Damn it. So then they sit next to each other while they're eating pizza. I like the Kurosawa's like, hey, the pizza's really good. They have the cutest little moments. It's so sweet. I'm like, you two should date. You should really date. You guys would be great together. And then these girls come back over, these 2 harlots, and they basically try to get Adachi to leave. Like, they work with him, and they don't even acknowledge him. Like, the girl in the mint shirt, to be fair, has acknowledged Adachi before. Like, in the episode where he saves Kurosawa, she did acknowledge him, I'm pretty sure. But the other girl I'm like, you work with him. How do you not know who he is? So, yeah. And everybody keeps trying to pressure him to drink more. And then Adachi's like, fine, why would someone want to sit? He says, yeah, why would someone so handsome sit next to me? I hate that he's so down on himself. Then he bumps into the secretary. And she's like, oh, no, I think I was spacing out. Fujisaki-san, the secretary. And he's like, oh, excuse me. And she's like, oh, I want to know if they want anything to drink. I think that I can't decide if she likes him, or she might have been the one to recognize that Kurosawa was in trouble in the other episode. So I can't decide if she likes Adachi or if she's just being a nice person. I can't decide which it is. Right? And he's like, oh, I'll just want some oolong tea. Because she's super kind. She doesn't question why he's not getting alcohol. She just orders the oolong tea for him, and she's super nice about it. He's like, I've been kind of interested in her because she's nice, but she is really kind. And then she leaves. Oh, wait, Magenta Guy is there. You can see him. Magenta Man did show up. Why was he not front and center during the karaoke? Animation team, you should have got on that. Anyway, so she leaves to go to the restroom and walks past him. She's super kind, right? He's like, if someone like her liked me. No, nothing that convenient would ever happen. Here's the thing about it, though. That is definitely beard behavior, because he only wants to be with her because she's super nice to him and super kind, but he's not physically attracted to her. He's just like, oh, we could pass as a heterosexual couple, right? So he's totally down to be with her because she's a nice person. But as far as attraction goes, he hasn't acknowledged that he feels it. He just says he's interested in her because she's nice and approachable, and they could fool others as a couple. But that's not really fair to her, right? Because if she genuinely does like him, then it's going to really suck when he's like, oh, actually, I'm not interested in you for those reasons. So I said in the reaction, I thought it'd be funny if she was dating a woman, and that would just throw all bets off. And then she was like, oh, I have a girlfriend. It's totally fine. And then that would be another push for Adachi to recognize that it's socially okay for him to like Kurosawa, even though they're the same sex. So I feel like maybe that would be cool if that happened, but I don't know. But anyway, that's when Rokaku comes back and he's like, lately I've gotten into saunas. I like that the first thing he says when he like jumps on Adachi and calls him Ando again. It's like, let's go to a sauna together. Want to go sometime? And Kurosawa's like, for the last time, damn it. Now I got to go and get out of the way so I can go see Adachi. But anyway, as he goes back to the bathroom, he stumbles across these two assholes who are trying to harass our poor Fujisaki, our secretary. And I appreciate that Adachi, like, she says, help me. Now, clearly, I don't think she should have had to telepathically tell him, help me, for it to be conveyed. I think the nonverbals pretty much gave the vibe of her not wanting to be there and not enjoying the company of either of these assholes. So I'm glad Adachi stands up to them. That's really good, even though he's not the type of person to know what to do. But yeah, I love that he's like, she doesn't appreciate what you're doing. Just stop. He's like, I don't think it's right for you to force her. Exactly. And then these two guys are being jerks. And then all of a sudden, here comes Kurasawa to be like, don't touch Adachi. And also, stay away from Fujisaki. I mean, to be fair, Adachi was being the absolute gentleman and protecting Fujisaki in that moment because she wanted help. And Kurosawa wasn't exactly so much as helping Fujisaki as he was being concerned about Adachi. So I think Adachi was in a good place there. But yeah, he basically tells him, you know, if you know what's good for you, let's not take the jokes too far and go away. And I like that she thanks Adachi and them, and he says, are you okay? And she's like, yep. He's like, I feel conflicted. He saved me, but I couldn't do anything. And Kurosawa looks great no matter what he does. I still think Fujisaki was grateful for you, Adachi. I would have been grateful too, right? I think I would have been grateful that both of you came and helped regardless. I think that's super important. And I'm glad that they addressed in this episode about Kurosawa being so composed, because Adachi thinks he's just so perfect. And we find out that no, that is absolutely not the case. I also love that deep within Kurosawa's wallet, next to the condoms, are bandages, because accidents can happen. Now, the question is, when he bumped his leg, did he intend for Adachi to hear everything he was saying? I don't know. And I can't decide, right? Because I can't decide at this moment, because I feel like he was just bumping his leg to flirt with him. And it was like a flirty, like skin on skin gesture is what I felt it was. But there is that little tiny part of me that's like, did he want him to hear? But I don't know. And he's like, I screwed up. And he's like, no matter how I feel, I can't be chasing after him or swapping seats or competing. He basically explains all of his actions during the entire evening. I made Adachi pull away from me. Maybe he doesn't. I lose my composure when it comes to Adachi. So the question is, does he want Adachi to hear that? Or was he saying this and Adachi just happened to hear and interpret it? He's like, well, they don't give a rat's ass about me. And see, that there too. He thinks that, I mean, he knows that Rokaku isn't interested in him, but he also thinks that Fujisaki is not as well. Interesting. So maybe they can't hear each other because he doesn't really react to what Adachi just said there. Yeah. So that does make me think, the fact that he didn't react to what Adachi was thinking in that moment, that does make me think that maybe he can't hear what Adachi's thinking. I would honestly prefer that. I would prefer Adachi to be the only one that has this ability based on his family, but who knows? Based on his own genetics, who knows? But he's like, yeah, I thought Kurosawa was always perfect. But he's actually worried and gets anxious too. And he's like, crap, I kind of like that about him. I think that's actually kind of cute. You know what's funny about this? I'm watching the Apothecary Diaries at the same time. And there's a cat-like protagonist who has it out for this other... Basically, okay, the main character of Apothecary Diaries reminds me a lot of Adachi in the sense that they are in denial of their feelings towards the person that we are expected to ship them with. And the person that we are expected to ship them with comes across looking very perfect, prim, proper, like picture of perfection. Nothing flusters them. But as the story goes on, we find out that just like Kurosawa, the perfect character gets quite flustered and is quite imperfect and flawed. And it's just like the dynamic between Adachi and Kurosawa reminds me a lot of the main pairing in the Apothecary Diaries. If you haven't been watching it, you probably should if you like this show. So yeah. And then he's like, Kurosawa, thank you for saving me. I love that he does come out and say it out loud because Kurosawa, like, that does a big boost of confidence for him. He's like, I could tell without touching him this time that he looked happy. And so then they go out for ice cream together, which is so cute. I love it. I wanted to see their ice cream date, damn it. Fine. Don't show us. We'll just interpret it ourselves. I'm sure there's fan fiction about it. So then they go to the sauna because thank God Rokaku had free coupons and they get to go there. I love this scene too because of course Kurosawa has been going to the gym waiting to show off his body to Adachi and be like, look Adachi, look how amazing I look. Isn't this great? And all it really does is make Adachi worry about his own body, right? Although none of them look bad. And Rokaku's like, maybe I'll start going. He's like, I train regularly, so I'm ready for days like these. I don't want Adachi to see me out of shape. But he's like, I know Adachi isn't interested in my body. It's interesting. He's like, I expected us to sit this close, but I can't look directly at him now that it's happening. So I'm very curious. Like, we get to hear a lot of, from the halfway point on, we get to hear a lot of Kurosawa's monologue. And so he's like, I feel a little bit uneasy. He's like, if I see all of Adachi after this, I'll be reminded that Adachi is a man all over again. So it's very interesting that up until this point, Kurosawa has just been attracted to Adachi because he's Adachi. And the whole fact that they're men hasn't come into the situation. But he's like, if I see his dick, I'm going to know he's a man and I have to confront my sexuality. So the fact that I'm like, up until this point, I thought that Kurosawa was comfortable in his sexuality and was pursuing Adachi under that assumption. No, he is just like Adachi and is just as conflicted about his sexuality as Adachi is. And I'm like, what? So yeah. And then meanwhile, Rokaku is our convenient buffer third wheel to keep things from getting awkward. And so we flash back with Kurosawa where he explains to us that up until now, he's like, I like Adachi and I've fantasized about him, but up until now, I've only ever dated women before. Now, dated women and had sex with women are two very different things. And so does this make it to where we think Kurosawa is not a virgin? I don't know, because dating and having sex are two different things. Like, you could date a lot of people and not go all the way. So I don't know. They don't really tell us about that. And I don't think we're going to find out until we get to the point where the two of them are together and Adachi's like, do you have experience? And if he says only with women, we'll be like, oh, okay, then we know now. But we don't know for sure yet. But yeah, so basically he has dated women before, has experience being in romantic situations with women, but he is acknowledging that he likes Adachi. He's like, what would I think if I actually saw him? So that's a very fair point. Up until now, he has just imagined Adachi in the pajamas that he's gotten for him. Well, the pajamas aren't see-through, so it still, it hasn't totally wrecked the fantasy of Adachi being an actual man. And then Adachi stands up and the towel slips a little bit, which I'm sure he's like, oh, he's kind of self-conscious about his body. Luckily, he stops right before the towel completely falls all the way down. And he's like, it probably does feel nice. No, it definitely does. The steam conducts excessively strong thoughts. And then he tries to get out of there real quick out of the sauna because it's too hot. And that's when he imagines him holding Adachi, saying that I do want to touch him. I feel bad because Kurosawa likes that he has a little bit of softness there. He likes that. And honestly, if he's been with women before, women typically, stereotypically, are not super masculine and buff like a man is. So if he likes that body type, then the thing that's so frustrating is that Kurosawa likes how soft he is. And meanwhile, Adachi thinks it's something that he needs to change. And it's like, no, he likes you for that. Like, don't change it. He says that's perfectly fine. Ugh. Ugh. These boys, this frustration. So anyway, they walk back through the park and they have a nice little walk together and they both appreciate the sauna and it's super cute. And then he takes a picture of Adachi and then they manage to get to the end of the park and he's like, well, should I take this picture? He's just a coworker after all. He's like, at first, I just wanted to be near him, but I'm becoming greedier. And he said he didn't mind the kiss on the forehead and we've been spending more time together. But when Adachi says he likes me, he probably just means as a friend. And that, I don't blame Kurosawa for being like, I really like him, but I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Like, that is a very realistic thought to have. He's like, but Adachi is so kind. And then we get a brief flashback of him on the bench. And before we get any further in that flashback, we go back to the very beginning where Kurosawa has always had girls fighting over him. He's always been like looked at because of his face. He's benefited from the handsome face. He's used it to his advantage at work. But then once he got a job, he started to experience this animosity. And then we have the damn playboy, just a pretty face. The water cooler talk. But before we go back to that, he's like, I put in all kinds of efforts and I achieved results, but I was still judged for it. So then we go back. I didn't realize this was in the past until the very end of the episode. Because when this was first happening, I'm like, okay, are they at another business trip? But this happened previously, like presumably before Adachi turned 30. Because I don't think he heard his thoughts. I don't think he heard Kurosawa's thoughts in this moment. So we got the president here, yes. He's like, I'm Kurosawa from sales. And she's the president. She's like, oh, I've heard so much about you. And he's like, I've heard about you as well. Yeah, President Matsura. The moment that he was trying to talk about the new product, he's like, oh, yeah, the product that you all put out was great. And she's like, enough of that. The moment she said that, I was like, oh, She's going to try to put the moves on him. And what I appreciate about this series is the equity of, we saw earlier in the episode that Fujisaki was being harassed by the two guys outside of the restroom. We saw that, and they were trying to like assert a position of power because there were two of them. I like that we have equality in this series where we have that instance. And then we have the person who stood up to two men outside a restroom is put into a compromising position because of this woman's power and position. She uses her authority to basically be able to harass and sexually harass men. And I'm like, you would not see that in a heterosexual targeted piece of media. I don't think you would see that. And the reason why is because it puts the male character in a vulnerable position of weakness with the female character asserting dominance and power. And you don't see a lot of media targeted towards heterosexual men that position that or showcase that. And it's wrong because there are plenty of men out there that are sexually harassed and assaulted, and it needs to kind of be addressed. And I appreciate this series to get on a real tangent that it goes there and does that because it's a real situation, right? 100% could happen. You're so formal and serious, aren't you? Yeah, and so then, yeah, she's like, we have the day off, so don't talk to me about work. And she gets real flirty there, and he's trying to be nice. And then he says, well, in that case, Yukiko-sama. And she's like, oh, you're fun. Like, all he did was give her, like, a different title change. Like, really? Girl. She's like, oh, why don't you become my secretary, meaning work under me? He's like, oh, you wouldn't want me. And then we see these other guys where she's like, oh, how cute. I like you. Of course, these other guys are jealous because they're not young and attractive, and she's not showing them the time of day like she's showing him. It just, yeah, it's very frustrating. I had a similar experience where one of my students, we were at a tournament and there was a coach that was around my age, and they were just being very forward, and it was in public, so it wasn't in like a private space, but they were being forward and kind of handsy with my student, and he is very young and kind of impetuous, and I'm like, and in the moment I was like, I don't like how he was treating the situation, because I'm like, you're a coach in a position of power. They're like half your age and don't understand that position of power and what comes with it, and even if there was nothing meant by it, and the kid never felt uncomfortable. They were kind of like, oh, this is like, oh, this hot coach like took interest in me. I'm like, even though the kid wasn't in a position where they felt unsafe, as a coach, knowing that other people have been taken advantage of and the situations others have been in that were not so innocent, I was like, oh, as a coach, you don't do that. That's even if there's no harm, no foul meant, I'm like, that's still awkward and unnecessary and unprofessional. And it has left a sour taste in my mouth since that moment, because I'm like, that there are so many people taken advantage of in those situations. And I'm like, why would you want to perpetuate a similar seeming scenario? Even if there was no harm meant by it, it's still uncomfortable. And I was just like, I felt like I wanted to be like a protective, like mama bear to get in there, like, leave the kid alone. Like I felt that wash over me, and I was like, and it still bothers me. But anyway, so yeah, they have this malt whiskey and scotch and champagne. Like the malt whiskey and stuff, we're getting into some like heavy booze. And again, the moment she started to try to push Adachi to drink, I'm like, no, no. If he doesn't want to drink, he doesn't want to drink. And she kept pushing it. And that's when he was like, oh, I'll drink for him. And, Kurosawa was like, he doesn't know to brush it off because he doesn't have the tact to say it correctly. And she gets really pushy. She's like, well, you're not going to drink my liquor that I bought. And then Kurosawa was like, no, he's just not sociable. I'll do it instead. And the moment that he drinks the whole thing of whiskey, which again is, we're going to feel that tomorrow. He feels it later tonight, apparently. She's like, you're not just a pretty face after all. And yeah, she definitely puts the hands on him, does something really uncomfortable, and says, you've caught my eye. After this, let's leave. And yeah, his expression, that's horrifying, because he's in a position of vulnerability. She's the president of the company he's employed at. If he says no, she could get him fired. So he's put in this vulnerable situation of, I don't want to be with this woman, but what do I do? And so that's when he leaves and gets up and he's like, I need to be excused. And Adachi's like, what's going on? And that's when he like tries to go to the bathroom, and that's to get away from the situation. And then she apparently got upset after that, and the other guys know about it. His face is his only asset. Why do you have to do that? Guys who think sales are about flattery are spineless. And they have like no clue that she was like harassing him. Probably because they want her to do that to them. And they probably would think he's an idiot for turning it down. He's like, I suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. But then that's when Adachi came and talked to him. He's like, you should lie down for a while. And I like that Adachi's like, well, you pretty much saved me. So what's interesting is if this conversation happened in the past, before Adachi could hear thoughts, it's like you just had Kurasawa telling you his insecurities, that he's just a pretty face and he upset the president. So like, why'd you think he wasn't like, you saw him like, I guess maybe you didn't see it. Maybe Adachi didn't consider this being flawless or being flawed. Maybe he considered this part of like his chivalrous flawlessness in this moment. But I would consider it as being Kurosawa's admitting he's not perfect. He's like, I upset the president and I'm useless. Like he just said he was useless. Adachi, why you been thinking he's a guy that's not, unbothered this whole time? And he's like, he's just a colleague. And he's like, no, you've done tons of research and you care about the products. You even drank for me today because I couldn't. And that's when I love that the water cooler talk starts to like fade away. He's like, I always thought you were perfect. So seeing you down is a novel sight. Maybe this didn't happen before he was 30. Maybe the timeline on this, But then he says, why did my heart flutter just now? So he realized he was in love and his face was flushed. So I'm like, this had to have happened before Adachi turned 30 because he can't read his thoughts, because what Kurosawa's thoughts are I'm falling in love with this man. My heart is beating and my face is red and I'm about to cry. I'm in love with him. But then later on, he says, well, he's just perfect. I'm like, you just have talked to him and had the conversation about not being perfect. So maybe Adachi just forgot. Maybe. I love that, though. Also, if a man is in your lap doing this, I don't think he's completely heterosexual, madame, sir. I could be wrong. But he says several months later, I'd noticed I'd started watching Adachi. So yeah, that was several months ago. All right, so interesting. Maybe Adachi had forgotten about that moment and just thought he was perfect and forgot about the time where he said that Kurosawa wasn't perfect. But then again, Adachi's not really a reliable narrator because he's kind of a tsundere, so what can we do? Seeing them together with this little kid in the ball makes me also think that, like, that could be like an adopted child after they get married. I never thought I'd experience what feels like a first love at my age. Well, I mean, life is unpredictable. I mean, maybe that means he is a virgin if this is his first love. Maybe those other girls he dated were just dates. The mystery deepens. The mystery deepens. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he has powers or not, but he could be a virgin too. Who knows? All these men could be virgins. Everyone, Rokaku, Suge, him, everyone. In this generation, you see the news. It's possible. He's like, you're kind, Adachi. You're always paying attention to your surroundings. And he says, I love that about him. He doesn't say it out loud, though. Oh! Mm-hmm. He's like, kind. He's like, I'm kind of a gloomy person. People would probably be bothered if I tried to help them. There have been plenty of times I've been unable to act. But recently, because of you, I've gained some confidence. Oh, I love it. And he's like, there he goes, getting my hopes up again. I'm like, you bakas just need to talk. Just bump shoulders and talk it out mentally, right? Use your telepathy. Come on. He makes me uneasy and super happy over the smallest things. That's love. That's love, I feel. Happy but uneasy over the smallest things. Mm-hmm. Oh, you can thank me with a picture of the two of us. I love the picture because clearly Kurasawa is so happy in that moment. And Adachi has a blush on his face. He's blushing so hard, but he's also like, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give it away that I'm enjoying it. I don't want to give it away that I'm enjoying it. Oh my God. These two. I love the topics that we're getting in this. I love that Kurosawa is a fleshed out, fully realized person. He's not perfect. It's so good. I love it so much. And yeah, it's just great. It's just absolutely great. And then Adachi is slowly coming around to figuring out that Kurosawa loves him and that it's okay. I mean, 2 episodes ago, I don't think Adachi would have let him take the selfie. So anyway, this episode was wonderful. I love this series so much. And I'm so excited to see what happens next. But I'm even more excited to see what you all think down below. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yes, I will be back very soon with episode 4 of Cherry Magic. Bye!